Well, NATO Chief Mark Rutte is in Washington trying to rebuild relations between the alliance and the United States. Rutte has met the U.S. Secretary of State, Mark Rubio, and will sit down later with President Trump in the White House. Trump has sharply criticized NATO members during the Iran war for ignoring his call to help open the Strait of Hormuz. Spain also refused to allow the U.S. to use its air bases there. Trump even went as far as threatening to leave NATO. Well, DW correspondent Teri Schulz joins us now for more from Brussels. Teri, NATO Chief Mark Rutte will be meeting Donald Trump later today. This meeting comes as the alliance faces what some experts are calling its worst crisis ever. Teri, you've covered NATO for many years through multiple crises. What's different about this one?
You're right, Terry. There have been many periods that we called crises for NATO, some of them quite recent with regard to Russia and Ukraine, for example, or the 5% spending target. But those things, I'm being told by experts, do not compare to what's happening inside the alliance right now, what they are calling the worst crisis NATO has faced. So it's nothing new, as you mentioned, that Donald Trump disparages European allies, that he threatens to pull out of the alliance or pull American resources out of NATO. But what is new this time is that allies feel that his war on Iran is actually so dangerous to their own security that they have lost trust in the United States. That despite all of the words, that the U.S. will not take actions that are harmful to their security. The war on Iran has marked a turning point in that. And that's why, as you said, we have seen European allies not only say that they can't accept this, but actually take actions to prevent the United States from using their military assets to launch these offensive actions. So this is something that we haven't seen before in NATO. It's been both verbally expressed, but also behind the scenes. And people are saying that this is something that really has brought NATO to a breaking point.
Well, Mark Rutte is now in Washington. He's been described as a bit of a Trump whisperer. Is he the man, Teri, who can get the U.S. president back on board with NATO?
Well, if not he, then I can't imagine who it would be. There's virtually no other European leader, save perhaps Viktor Orban, who would go to Washington and praise the Trump administration's actions. Mark Rutte has done that even from the podium here in Brussels at NATO headquarters, said that he supports the Trump administration's actions on Iran, the removal of the Iranian regime, efforts to reduce Tehran's ability to get a nuclear weapon. He's even suggested that many, if not all, other allies also support that action. That's not actually what they will tell us behind the scenes, but this is something that does add up to bonus points for Mark Rutte as he heads into the White House today. Donald Trump just a day ago called him a great person. So it is now going to be very much dependent on that personal relationship that Mark Rutte has with Trump to try to bring Trump back from these threats to pull out of NATO, or even worse, pull U.S. resources out of NATO. Remember, he did have this Greenland moment where in Davos, he managed in an hour-long meeting to get Trump to stop saying he was going to militarily invade Greenland, albeit that might have just been temporarily. But anyway, people are very much going to be watching to see if he has another moment now where he comes out of this meeting and Trump again says that he appreciates NATO.
Teri, what if Rutte's attempts to keep Trump committed to NATO don't work? What might happen?
We can only imagine that Trump could take some of his threats further. He has threatened to pull out of the alliance. He can do that. There is Article 13 in NATO's founding treaty that says any country can leave NATO within 1 year of notifying the United States that it wants to do so. But what many people feel would be more dangerous is not even that he formally pulls out of the alliance, but simply that he does some of the other things he's threatened to do. Bring home tens of thousands of U.S. troops that are posted in Europe, or stop allowing NATO to use some of the very critical capabilities that can't be replaced by the Europeans immediately. Intelligence capabilities, reconnaissance, surveillance, ballistic missile defense, and especially, of course, the nuclear deterrent that is possessed primarily by the United States, protecting all other European allies. So he really could do a lot in practical ways to damage the alliance. He hasn't taken those steps yet, but those are things that he could do.
Teri, thank you very much as ever. That was our correspondent in Brussels, Teri Schulz.